You ever see someone walk into a place and immediately know they don't belong, at least in the eyes of everyone around them? That was what happened. When Meryl Thorne stepped into the glossy, overlit showroom of Ashton Ridge Motors in the Bellwyn Heights, a town where appearances mattered more than truth, the receptionist barely looked up. A young salesman named Trent, slick hair, forced grin, approached her with the kind of smile you save for someone you're humoring. "Ma'am, are you looking for the restroom?" he asked. Meryl just smiled politely. "Actually, I'm interested in the new Veyron series. My husband and I—" Trent's grin twisted. "Right. Well, that series starts at $500,000. You might want to try the used lot down on Fenley Street. Much more approachable." His voice carried. A couple near the coffee station glanced over. One of them chuckled. Meryl felt the heat creep up her neck, but she kept her calm. "I didn't realize you judged customers by their shoes," she said coolly. "We don't," Trent snapped, backpedaling. "We just like to make sure people are in the right price range. Saves time." At that moment, a manager, gray suit, pinched expression, stepped in. "Is there a problem here?" Before Meryl could reply, Trent waved a hand. "Just helping this lady find the right direction. She's not really a buyer," the manager nodded. "Well then, miss, we're quite busy today. Perhaps come back when you're ready." Meryl stood still for a second. Then she nodded. "All right, I'll come back. Tomorrow." She turned and walked out slowly, past the gleaming hoods and glass walls, her chin held high. No one noticed her faint smile. What they didn't know, what none of them bothered to ask, was who exactly she was going to come back with. And when she did, no one at Ashton Ridge Motors would forget it. The next morning, the sun barely peeked over the hills of Bellwyn Heights when a sound echoed through the quiet street outside Ashton Ridge Motors. A deep, unmistakable purr of a luxury engine. Heads turned. Coffee cups paused mid-sip, and every neck in that showroom stretched toward the glass windows like they were drawn by instinct. A matte obsidian Rolls-Royce Phantom coasted into the lot like it owned the ground beneath it. The sun kissed its polished surface, and the chrome trim sparkled like a crown. This wasn't just any car. It was a statement. A roaring whisper of old money, power, and class. But even more shocking was who stepped out of the back seat. Meryl Thorne. Same boots, same soft blue sweater. Only this time, her presence made the entire room freeze. The driver, a sharply dressed man in his 50s with silver hair and an earpiece, walked around and opened the door for her like she was royalty. Behind her, a second SUV pulled in, a black Cullinan, customized, plated Thorne 2. Two more men in suits stepped out, sunglasses on, not saying a word. Inside the showroom, Trent choked on his own breath. The manager leaned forward, squinting. "Is that her?" Meryl stepped through the doors like nothing had happened yesterday. Calm, poised, not a word of anger on her face. She glanced around. "Good morning," she said, voice steady. "Is Trent here? I'd like to continue our conversation about the Veyron series." Trent stumbled forward. Miss Thorne, we didn't know you were—" "You didn't ask," she cut in with a smile so soft it was almost cruel. "But I'm glad you're available today. I brought someone who's very interested in your highest spec model." That's when the second door of the Rolls opened. Out stepped a man in a crisp navy suit, wearing a watch that cost more than most people's homes. Broad-shouldered, clean-shaven, with a presence that silenced the room the second he appeared. Callan Thorne, Meryl's husband. If Bellwyn Heights had a whisper of royalty, he was it. Real estate tycoon, philanthropist, owner of half the valley. And every man in that showroom suddenly realized just how badly they'd misjudged the woman who now stood calmly in front of them. Callan walked to Meryl, took her hand gently, and looked around. I hear someone tried to embarrass my wife yesterday, he said, not loud, but every word landed like a punch. The manager went pale. Trent took a step back. Meryl just smiled again. Let's not make a scene, she said sweetly. Let's just test drive the Veyron and decide how many we feel like buying today. As the showroom doors swung closed behind them, it was as if the entire dealership held its breath. No one moved. Sales reps stood frozen. Even the receptionist stopped typing mid-keystroke. Meryl's heels clicked gently on the showroom floor as she walked toward the center display. The Veyron. Series Z, an ultra-luxury electric sports model with carbon fiber panels and bespoke leather interiors. The same one she had admired the day before. Trent awkwardly stumbled into motion, wiping his sweaty palms on his slacks. This one's our finest, Mr. Thorne, he stammered. Limited release. Only 3 in the entire country. Callan raised a hand without looking at him. Save the pitch. His tone was low, controlled. Not rude, but exact. Precise enough to silence anyone. Instead, he turned to Meryl. Is this the one, love? She nodded once, not even glancing at Trent. It's beautiful. I think it suits you. Callan walked around the car slowly, his fingertips grazing the smooth contours. We'll take 2. The words landed like thunder. Trent's mouth fell open. 2. 1 in black for me, 1 in pearl white for her. Colin looked up at the stunned sales staff. Full cash wire. No need to run any credit checks. The manager came rushing over, beaming now like he'd just been handed the keys to heaven. Mr. Thorne, of course. We'll begin paperwork. Immediately. Please, this way to the VIP lounge. But Callan didn't move. His eyes were on Trent. Actually, he said, voice calm. Before that, I think you owe my wife something. Trent turned crimson, his lips quivering. Sir, I didn't mean to... Callan tilted his head slightly. You humiliated her. You assumed she didn't belong. You spoke to her like she was nothing. Meryl finally looked at Trent then. You judged me by my clothes, my car, the way I talked. Not once did you ask my name. Not once did you treat me like a human being. Trent opened his mouth, but no words came. There was nothing he could say that would fix it. Meryl stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. I don't want an apology. For me. I want you to remember this the next time someone walks through those doors looking like they don't belong. Callan put an arm around her. Come on. We've already spent enough time here. As they turned to leave, Meryl paused, just long enough to pull a business card from her purse and place it gently on the front desk. On it, a single name. Meryl Thorne, CEO, Thorne Wellness Group Trent, stared at it like it burned. And then, the doors closed again, sealing in the silence the shame and the biggest sale that man would probably ever make. All because he'd underestimated a woman in a soft blue sweater. By the next morning, the dealership's name was everywhere, and not for the reasons their marketing team would have liked. A young customer had recorded a portion of the previous day's encounter on their phone. Just a few seconds. The way Trent had talked down to Meryl, how Callan walked in like a storm, and how they left without so much as looking back. They uploaded it to a local community page with a caption that read, "This woman was treated like trash until her billionaire husband showed up. Lesson, never judge a book by its cover." That clip? It blew up. Within hours, it had been reposted by influencers, reshared on business pages, and discussed on morning radio shows across the state. The dealership's name, Rutherford Elite Motors, was suddenly trending for all the wrong reasons. By noon, their review page was flooded. Would give 0 stars if I could. Respect shouldn't have a price tag. Shameful. Hope that salesperson gets a long, hard lesson in humility. Bravo to the woman for keeping her grace. That's real class. Inside the showroom, it was chaos. Trent sat at his desk, pale and sweating, clicking refresh on his email every few seconds as negative PR requests rolled in. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Angry calls, messages from corporate. Even his mother had texted, "What did you do, Trent?" The manager called an emergency staff meeting. The room felt like a funeral. "We're not just looking at a lost sale," he said, pacing. "We're looking at a PR disaster, a public reckoning. Trent, I don't know if we can protect your position." Trent opened his mouth to speak, but, again, just like in front of Meryl, no words came. Meanwhile, Meryl and Callan were sitting on their back porch overlooking the hills of Lindenbrook, the white Veyron parked neatly beside the black one in the drive. Meryl sipped coffee quietly as the birds sang, her phone lighting up with texts and emails from journalists, talk show hosts, and bloggers wanting interviews. She wasn't interested. "I don't want 15 minutes of fame," she said to Callan. "I just wanted to be treated like a human." Callan nodded. "You were. By yourself, and now by millions who saw it." But something tugged at Meryl. Not revenge. Something else. Something softer. Deeper. Because maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of something much bigger. 2 weeks had passed since the video went viral. Meryl hadn't returned a single media request. She didn't want to be a headline or a trending hashtag, but everywhere she went, people recognized her. Grocery clerks smiled kindly. A woman at the post office hugged her without warning. Kids waved from their bikes. And yet, Meryl stayed quiet. Not because she had nothing to say, but because she was still deciding what her voice was truly meant for. One evening, as she walked through the garden behind their hillside home, Callan joined her. He'd just gotten off a call with one of his board members. "They want to use the publicity," he said. "Push it for sales, partnerships, PR buzz." Meryl stopped and looked out across the valley. "What if we did something else with it?" Callan raised a brow. "Something real," she continued. "Not about us. About everyone who's ever been dismissed because they didn't look the part. The single mothers, the janitors, the kids in worn shoes, the people the world pretends not to see." He was silent, listening. "I want to open a fund," Meryl said. "For training, for support, for dignity. A place where people can walk in with their heads held high. Not because they have money, but because they're seen." Callan smiled slowly, eyes warm. "You don't want revenge. You want restoration. I want people to remember that worth isn't worn. It's lived." The next day, the press release went out. Not from a media agency, not from a PR firm, but directly from Meryl herself. No flashy headlines, just a single title: "We all deserve to be seen." It announced the opening of the Lark Initiative, named after the bird that sings even when no one's listening. It would fund scholarships, mentorships, and dignity-driven programs for the underrepresented. All funded quietly, without strings, and without ego. As for Rutherford Elite Motors, the fallout continued. Trent was let go. The dealership issued a public apology, but it was clear. Their reputation was tarnished, maybe for good. But Meryl? She never gloated, never posted, never pointed fingers. She just kept showing up, walking into spaces like she belonged, not because of the cars in her driveway or the name of her husband, but because she'd found something deeper. Her voice, her strength, her purpose, and somewhere in a quiet corner of the internet. A comment beneath that viral video read, "Sometimes the quietest women create the loudest change," and thousands agreed.